Welcome to Gather Podcasts, teaching women how to navigate business, career, motherhood, and more, all while keeping your faith at the center. Because we believe growth never happens alone, it happens when we gather. So let's gather together. All right, everybody, welcome to the Gather Podcast, episode 3. I am your host, Lauren, and I'm really excited for today's topic because we are going to be talking about something that is so important for the times that we are living in. We are going to be talking about hustle culture. Because as a faith-filled entrepreneur, as someone who loves God and wants to do really well at my work, and as someone with so much ambition, it is so important to realize that there is a right way to do things. And hustle culture is a huge lie. And I think so many of us are burnt out, overwhelmed, and just at our end because we have bought into this hustle culture. It's something that has been, as a millennial, it is something that has been so pushed on us. And I know that I am in good company when I say we want to get rid of hustle culture and we want to lean into kingdom culture. So we are here to build kingdom businesses and businesses that honor the pace of God and the pace that we are called to move in. And so I want to talk about hustle culture. So as I was prepping for this podcast episode, I got really curious. I know what hustle culture is, but I wanted to know what is the exact definition. And so I'm going to read it to you. I have some notes that I'll be kind of referencing throughout this episode, but the definition of hustle culture is a societal and workplace mentality that promotes working extremely long hours in pursuit of professional success, often at the expense of personal health and well-being. It emphasizes constant productivity as a badge of honor, fostering the idea that one must sacrifice leisure, family, friendships, self-care to achieve maximum potential. Now, that sounds like something I do not want to be a part of. As a mom of 2 and a wife, I don't want to sacrifice family. I don't want to sacrifice my presence with my friends, my family, my church activities. I want to live a very well-rounded life, but I still want to build a business. So is it possible? Is there a way to be successful, to have ambition, and to do it the right way? And I believe that there is. And so that's what we're going to talk about. Now, I think it's important as we talk about this. I used to struggle with hustle culture. I used to be a hustler, for lack of better terms. I really struggled with hustle culture. Very early on, it was very pushed on me to be a hard worker, to work overtime, to go above and beyond. And while those are good things, I bought into this narrative that I always had to be productive. I always had to be cleaning the house, prepping and planning goals for the week, planning and pushing myself at work, learning new skills, constantly. There's just never downtime, rest, and hanging out with my family. Just relaxing and not opening the laptop was a sin to me. That was so bad. It was something I looked down upon. If you were sitting around just relaxing all weekend, I was judging you, thinking wow, you're pretty lazy. Shouldn't you be working harder? Shouldn't you be pushing yourself? And I realized that was such a toxic trait. And it was because I bought into this narrative that our culture has pushed on us and is still pushing on us. I think I look at the state of the culture, and companies are wanting to add AI because they don't want to deal with a workforce. They don't want to deal with people. And I, as somebody who loves people, as someone who really thinks people are the heartbeat of business, I am very against this. And I know that it's all because of hustle culture that we're kind of in this position in the workplace. And it's very interesting. And I know I have a lot of friends too that are overwhelmed, constantly overstimulated. They feel like they're failing at work, they're failing in motherhood, they're failing as a wife. And it's because when I look into these women's lives, they have bought into hustle culture. They are on all the time. They don't know what it means to sit back and enjoy a weekend, not thinking about work, not prepping anything, just being with your husband, being with their kids, just being with God and in the presence of God. And I think that's something that's a miss. And so it's something that I absolutely struggled with. I remember, and I'll share a story. I was about a year into being a communications director, overseeing 2 teams. Really, the whole weight of the business was on me at this point, and I loved it. I enjoyed it, but I was always on, and I was always in communication with the CEO. Always talking about these new ideas and this marketing idea, and he's a visionary as well. I'm a visionary. He's a visionary naturally, and he would always text me these ideas and what about this and have you looked into this? And it was during COVID, I believe. I'm sitting on the couch. It's probably 8:30 at night. I'm on my phone, not watching the movie. My husband and I had a movie on. I was not watching the movie. I was looking down on my phone constantly and then looking up and then on my phone. And Tim finally looked over to me and asked me, like, who are you texting? Like, what's going on? And I was like, oh, I'm texting the CEO. And it was like a wake-up call, a moment where he looked at me and he was like, I think it was actually almost 10 o'clock. He was like, it is almost 10 at night. Tell him you'll talk to him and you'll respond to those messages tomorrow. Like, you need to have a boundary. And it was such a big moment for us as a couple, and such a big moment for me, because I realized, like, wow, I am really so absorbed with my job that it is stealing my time of my family. It's stealing my presence here with my spouse. It's making me lose sleep. Every Sunday, I was high anxiety because I didn't rest. Every Sunday going into the work week, I was getting anxious and just my nervous system was on fire and I couldn't sleep at night, or I'd have a stomach ache because I was just always on and I was not taking care of myself the way that I should. I was not slowing down and being present and connected to other things outside of my life. And I think that we all need to hear this message in today's culture. Like, hustle culture is a lie. We do not need to hustle all the time. We do not need to always be productive. And it's counterintuitive and goes against everything that the Bible tells us. Now, as faith-filled entrepreneurs, whether you are in the midst and you're listening to this, you're a business owner and you're like, yes, I am always on. I am not present with my family anymore. I'm disconnected. If you are stepping into entrepreneurship and you've gotten into that hustle right away, I want this to be your reminder and just an encouragement to you to slow down. And I want to invite you into kingdom culture, because I believe as faith-filled entrepreneurs, there is a way to build a business, to build systems, to build content, whatever it is, whatever that venture is, building a career, building a business. There's a way to do it that God would have you do it. There is a way that is pleasing to the Lord, and I'm calling it kingdom culture. And so Proverbs 23:4 says, don't wear yourself out trying to get rich. Be wise enough to know when to quit. Now, I love the book of Proverbs. There is a lot of wisdom and knowledge for how we should be living our lives, but it says, don't wear yourself out. Like, if you look at the foundation and the root of hustle culture positions us to always be working towards something. And most of the time, it's working towards money. It's working towards recognition. It's working towards people being aware and knowing us. And that is not, the Bible says stop. Just stop. Know when to call it quits. You know, if you are building a business and you have been hustling and you have anxiety, you are having poor relationships with your family, whether it's your wife, your husband, your kiddos, you're just checked out. You're just always thinking about work. Stop. You're going to wear yourself out. You're going to wear yourself to the ground. You are going to lose those relationships and those things that really matter, those things that you're hustling so hard to keep. You're going to end up losing them, and they're going to end up suffering because of what hustle culture has told us and how hustle culture tells you you need to operate. So we aren't meant for hustle. We are meant for kingdom building. Now, what does that look like practically? Well, I think it's important to know that the Proverbs, even though it says this, like, slow down, don't wear yourself out trying to get rich, it also says several times throughout the book of Proverbs, work hard, to be a hard worker. Do not be lazy or slothful. And so there is I'm going to use the word, and I don't really like the word, but there is a balance. And there is a way to do these things that will bring you joy. It'll bring you peace and fulfillment, and you will struggle and suffer in other areas of your life. So I am a huge believer at that. I think women especially have been told you can't be a good mom and a career woman, or you can't be a business owner and a mother. I don't buy into that lie, because I think the Bible tells us something very different. You can be both a mother, and a business owner, and do it very well and with so much grace. And so that's the whole point of this podcast. I want to equip you to do that really well. And so how do we build a business or step into entrepreneurship from a kingdom culture perspective? I'm going to give you 3 tips today that I think will really help you. They've helped me because I'm currently working a 9-to-5 and building a business. I started off about a year ago building a business with hustle mentality, and it did not last. I burnt out so quick, and I have learned to slow down and do it God's way. So the first tip is going to be, we need to acknowledge Him in everything. Proverbs 3:6 says, acknowledge the Lord in all your ways, and He will direct your paths. So hustle tells you keep going, keep being productive. The Bible tells us slow down. Like, close the laptop, pick up your Bible, and acknowledge God. When we invite God into our business, whether we are making a business decision on new marketing strategies, we want to hire, we want to do leadership development and coaching, whatever those business decisions are, or that next step from where you're at, we need to acknowledge God. And when we do, when we slow down, which is counterintuitive to what the world tells us, we slow down and we really sit down with our Bibles, we sit down with pencil and paper and write down all of the things that we're desiring, and we seek God, we invite Him into that, we begin to hear clearly, we begin to gain clarity on what those next steps are and how we're supposed to move forward in decisions for our business or our careers. And so that is step 1. Acknowledge Him and He will direct your paths. Now, step 2, we need to do all things with integrity. Now, I don't have this verse written in my notes, but I have it pulled up. It's Proverbs 10:9, and it says, whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but whoever takes crooked paths will be found out. Now, as a business owner or someone wanting to climb a career ladder, whether that's corporately or within a small business, you want to step up to leadership, it is so important that our conduct as working professionals or business owners is with high integrity. We are called to do things the right way, to not be deceitful, to not be cutthroat, to really make the right decisions and the right choices from a place of integrity. And it's usually from a place that is, as a business owner, as I holding a leadership position, I make decisions that are good for the business and for the people. I always look at, is this good for my team? Is this good for our clients? And is it good for the business? All 3 of those things have to align. And that's something that a mentor of mine really passed on, and I carry and I hold true in all of my decisions. Those 3 things have to win. And when we look at those 3 things from a biblical perspective, we can make sound decisions that have integrity, and they're anchored in integrity. And so when we do that, we can begin to build and move things forward in a kingdom culture way. Now, my third and final tip, how can we do this? How can we continue to build a business? How can I get rid of hustle culture and start to move in and operate in the way that God asks me to in my business or my career ambition? And it's going to be, don't be in a hurry. There is a time for everything. Ecclesiastes 3:1 says, there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under heaven. And if you're familiar with the book of Ecclesiastes, he says there's a time for hard work, there's a time for rest, there's a time for joy, there's a time for sadness, and it just goes on. There's a huge list. You can read it later. I'm not going to read the whole passage, but there really is a time for everything. When I became a first-time mom, I was in a leadership position. I was managing 2 teams. I was spearheading marketing. But when I became a mom, I had to slow down and realize that was my time to just be present as a mom. My first encounter with maternity leave was not a really good experience. During my maternity leave, there was a manager at the company who was very, very tied into hustle culture, and she was texting me, emailing me constantly throughout my maternity leave. And yes, that is a HR issue, and that's a whole nother conversation. Asking me questions and asking me about numbers, and I bought into hustle culture, and I was answering those emails, and I finally had to catch myself and go, oh, wait, no, I am on maternity leave. This is my time to be fully present as a mother. So I don't know. You're listening to this, and I don't know what season you're in. Maybe you're in a season where the business is a little slow right now. Ask the Lord. I want you to invite God in and practice that first step. What is God telling you to do in this season? If the business is a little stalled, is there new skills that you're called to be learning during this time? Is it a time to really nurture your team if you have a team? Is it a time to lean into some marketing? Whatever that season is you're in. If you're building a career, it could look like, when I was in a transition from an entry-level employee to a leadership position, there was a time where I had to just really learn how to solve certain problems in the office, and I had to learn certain skills that I was terrified of learning, that I had no idea how to do, Excel spreadsheets and making them really robust, or building out a CRM software, whatever those things are. Whatever season you're in, honor that season and know that it's just a season. Seasons come and go, and I love that that's why the Bible references this, because seasons are temporary. There is a time to advertise and to be very loud, to draw people towards your business. There is a time to slow down and to evaluate and to assess and to pour more money into training and nurturing your team and your current clients. There's a time for everything in business. And when we can do these 3 tips, I believe we can slowly start to get rid of hustle culture and enter into kingdom building, enter into kingdom culture, and business development, career ambition, and growth is really going to come at a pace that gives you peace. It keeps you connected with God, and it connects you with the people around you that matter most, the people that you are working so hard for in the first place. I work really hard to provide for my family, to provide for my kids, but to also have time with them. And so I feel it now when I start to operate in hustle culture. I feel that distance. I feel that kind of disconnection, and emotionally, that disconnection spiritually. I feel it. But when I can slow down and I can practice acknowledging Him in everything. The second tip was doing things with integrity, making sure I'm making decisions that are really good for everyone involved, not just decisions that are good for me, that are selfish decisions. And number 3, when I am not in a hurry and I take things at the Lord's pace. God's pace is slow. When I do those three things, I succeed in business. I succeed at my career. I succeed in motherhood and being a wife. And that's what I want for every one of you guys to realize. You do not need to buy into hustle culture. So let's today throw out hustle culture. Let's buy into kingdom culture. Let's lean into what the word says and start showing up. And I can assure you, within the upcoming weeks, you are going to start thriving and you will feel a shift. And just trust the process. If things aren't happening and moving, it doesn't mean that things aren't working. The Lord is always working for us who put our trust in him. So just trust that he is going to do things for you far more than any hustle can. I hope this lesson was good for you. I hope that if there's something that really stuck out to you, I want to hear it in the comments. Let me know what you thought. Let me know if you have any other tips to get out of hustle culture and into God's way of doing things. I'm so interested and I always want to learn from the listeners as well. Have a great day and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.